Okay guys, here we are being tow roped. Check that out. What is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, this is TWA Motorsports, and today we are on the red truck. Now this video is going to span through a couple weeks of tuning. So you guys may see some stuff move around as far as like me working on other projects, but I wanted to tell you if you guys saw something that got moved, nothing crazy is going on, but we need to start the tuning process with this thing. You guys saw in the last video, we actually got it running, and it's running, but it's not running great. And so what I've done was I scanned the factory computer and sent that off to my tuner, the same guy who did my green truck, which is Matt at GP Tuning. He does an amazing job. I love the work that he does, and he's an honest guy and works on a lot of high-end stuff, so I trust him with my stuff. So what I did was I scanned it, so I opened HP Tuners. If you go up here to the very top, you can see there is a red down arrow. That's what we're getting ready to do, but the green arrow is we're going to upload the stock tune. So I did that. I sent it to him. He looked it over and sent me a revision to start with. So basically a base tune. And so I'm waiting on a wideband so we can get it dialed in correctly. But until I get that, he did send me this base tune to get it started and maybe idle a little smoother and get a better option from the get-go. But he did say that this was on a speed density tune, so it's not using the mass airflow sensor, which I need it to, because I'm not running any kind of turbo or anything crazy. So what we're going to do today is we're going to load the newest tune. So I've already got the credits loaded. It costs 2 credits, and he told me to write entire, which it does show brickable, but we're going to do it anyway. I've got everything plugged in. All we need to do is put the key in. Thought I had it here. And once we put the key in, turn it to the run position, and we're going to go ahead and hit the right button. And we are writing entire, so you can see it's going to default to write calibration. We want to write entire, and we are going to go. Always a good idea to have your AC off, all the fans, anything possible. Oh, it's saying not unlicensed vehicle. That's weird. Well, let's try to open a different file here. No, this is it. We may do some learning here together, guys. It's saying that it's not licensed. 969. I want to make sure that I've got, yeah, everything matches as far as the VIN goes. I don't know what's going on here. Unlicensed vehicle. I've never seen that. Well, I guess we will call him and see exactly what's going on. Let's go here. Let's go to... It's connected. I wanted to make sure we connected, but we did. Interesting. I've never had this error before in my life. We're going to unplug this, plug it back in, and try again. Still showing unlicensed vehicle. All right, well, I guess we'll give him a call and I'll let you guys know what happens here. Okay guys, so here's the situation on the truck. I obviously have moved it around. I've just been moving cars around, but here's what we're gonna have to do. I went to scan this, obviously got it to scan, sent the tune file off to my tuner. He sent me a revised copy. It was actually running on a custom OS with a speed density tune, so it was not using the mass airflow sensor. I wanted to use the mass airflow sensor because I want it to run as smooth as possible. And that's part of, this whole process was me to make it run smoother, run nicer, idle nicer and whatnot. Be just more of a friendly daily driver. So the situation we're at right now is that when I did that, he sent me the new tune. I went to load it, and you guys saw that, and it won't load. And I think part of the problem is somebody wrote a different VIN in this truck. So it's pulling up a 2000 model, and this is a 2001. And so a 2000 model, actually, I wouldn't want to flash that back in anyway, because that uses the one-wire alternator. So then we'd be in that situation kind of like we were with the green truck with getting the light to go away, the not charging light. So anyway, what I've decided to do is, instead of like spending a ton of money trying to license different VIN numbers and flash this in, I'm actually going to pull the computer completely out, and I'm going to send it to my tuner, and we're going to have him bench flash it, because he has an unlimited licensing for these year of trucks. So he'll be able to flash it back to the way it's supposed to be with the correct VIN number. Then I'll be able to license that VIN, and we'll be able to go through the tuning process at that point. But so what I'm going to do, it's very, very simple, guys. I'm going to pull this cover off that covers up the VIN, or the computer. If I can get it, I don't know if I can do it with one hand. But either way, I'm going to unhook the negative side of the battery. We're going to pull, I'm actually going to unhook the negative and the positive. We're going to pull this off, get it out, and we're going to send it off to him. And this is what sucks, is it's probably going to take a week or two for him to get it, flash it, and send it back to me. But either way, that's the way it's got to be. I'm not going to spend $500 on credits to try to figure this out when I can just send him the whole computer. He can do it, send it back to me, and then we can start from there. But just want to let you guys kind of know what was going on. So the next part of this video, after we get this out of the truck, actually I'll show you right here because I've got another one, but this is all we're pulling out. The computer here, this is an old cut up harness. We're going to take the 7mm out and just send him the actual PCM. So either way, the next clip in this video will be us putting it back together and seeing what we got to start with as far as going with the tune. Because once I get it back plugged in, it'll run, but we'll still have to go through the tuning process, and we'll talk about how we're going to do that and that situation as we go. So guys, at this point, it's been probably 4 or 5 days since I started this whole process. I thought we had it figured out. Obviously we didn't. And so what I did was I took 2 computers. And the reason I took 2, I had an extra one, but I took 2 computers because a lot of times when you bench flash these, which is what I had done, you will fry one. And so just because I didn't want to come back home, I took 2 with me. I have a buddy that's about 30 miles away that has unlimited credits, and that's really what I needed. And he has the ability to bench flash. And when I say bench flash, he actually has one of these guys like this rigged up to where he can flash outside of a vehicle. And I can make one of those. In fact, I probably need to, but really the problem was the operating system that was loaded in this, I don't have license to. And even though I licensed that file, it didn't work. So instead of like beating my head against the wall or having to ship this out to the guy who's actually tuning the truck, he's in California, obviously I'm in Missouri, I didn't want to wait that long. Now he would have done that, he offered that, but I found this option. They were able to flash the file that my tuner sent me into the computer. And so, and we were able to do it with the first one. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to plug this thing back in and hook the battery back up. And then we're going to see, guys, you're going to see real time whether this thing starts. And then hopefully we can get a wideband hooked up and start this tuning process. But let me get this thing put in the truck, and then I will show you guys the first time it starts, if it actually starts. We got the light under the hood. Everything's plugged in. I'm a little nervous. I don't know why. It's not like it's a big deal if it doesn't work. Just have to keep going. So let's try it. Key in. Please work. I don't know, guys. You know what makes me think? I think the VATS is turned off. Or turned on. Interesting. It runs for a second, then it cuts power. That generally, like, it's a security thing. All right. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go scan. I'm going to go grab my computer because I've got the cable in here already. We're going to scan this file again and see if we can maybe write to it now that it's actually loaded in the computer, and see if we can turn the security off. The VATS is, I think, what's causing the issue, because here's the problem. I didn't have him load the actual VIN number of this truck in there, so that could be causing us our issue. I'd almost bet that's a problem. Okay, so I'm gonna go grab my laptop and let's give it a try. Got it hooked back up, reading what's in it, and it is showing the correct file. So the only thing I think it could be would be that the security difference between the body control module and the actual truck, because the truck is saying, hey, I'm VIN number this, and the computer's saying I'm VIN number that. So we may have to just change the VIN. Oh man, I'm really hoping I can write to it. That's going to be disappointing if I can't. But we're going to pull this file out, take a look at it, and see what we've got. Let's take a look at what we did. If you go into System, and then General, and then Security, you have VATS, which is Vehicle something Theft System. I don't remember what the A stands for. Anyway, I switched that to none. Okay. And so we're going to flash this back in. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And we're going to go up here to flash. We need to turn our key on. And we're going to write this in there. And then we will come back and see if that works. We've got the file in there. So let's try it again. That was the problem. I still got a really squeaky belt. Holy cow, listen how much smoother it's idling now. Listen to that. No more choppy craziness. This is awesome. Okay guys, so now we need to get a wideband on this thing so we can start the tuning process. So what I think I'll do is we'll shut this off. I really need to probably get a new belt. I don't know if it's my belt. I think it's my belt. It could be one of the pulleys. Either way, we need to get, we'll shut this off now that it's actually running. And we'll see if we can figure out how to hook the wideband up. That way we can start this tuning process. Let's take a look at what I decided to go with. So in this truck, I used a PLX wideband. And the very first thing my tuner said was, I don't think that thing works very good. And I said, well, what do you recommend? Because I used that PLX actually on my ZR1, and you know, it did freak out one time, and the pins were bent. But my tuner told me, hey, go buy a Ballenger. And so that's what I bought. And I'll list this in the description down below, guys. But let's open this stuff up. And obviously we've got our O2 sensor. That's going to go down below. We're going to have to lift this thing up and get this installed. But I want to route it away from any heat that could possibly get to it, you know. Man, doing this with one hand sucks. All right, so we know what that is. And then we have, obviously, our wiring that goes to that, our wiring that goes somewhere in the dash. We're gonna have to figure out a way to tab in. And then just some instructions. And then if you don't have an O2 bung, it's kind of cool. They furnish you one. That's interesting. Cool. So if you didn't have one, but my Y pipe actually has one built into it. So all we really need to do, it looks like, not a whole lot of connections here. We got a connection to this box, and then we've got a connection to the O2 sensor, and then we got a power. That's pretty much it. Sweet. Okay, so I think what I will do is I'll unwrap all this and we'll try to figure out, guys, I don't want to permanently install this because I'm going to be using it in other projects. So what I'm thinking about is I may do it all like WT style and run it through the door jamb or something, so we're not pinching the wire. I don't know, that generally I run it through the door, but that really pinches it. That's what I did on my green truck and I didn't have any issues, but we may just have to see if we can find an area. I know where we can grab power down there and I'll show you guys that, but let's get it all unwrapped and try to figure out a plan here on how we're gonna hook this up. What I'm planning on doing here is I've got these little terminal connections, you can see, and what they're meant to do is they're meant to go up here on this very top left connector. Okay, so that's where I'm going to plug in. We've got a ground and a positive there, but I wanted to put those ends on it so it clamped nice and neat, and then I'm going to heat shrink around it so we don't have any issues with it like grabbing anything else. Now, if you guys remember back when I did my green truck seats, I actually bought the plug that goes in there, but because this is going to be temporary, this will work for now, and I'm just going to go ahead and put these plugs on, heat shrink it, and then I'll show you where we're going to plug them in to get the power. So we're ready to plug in, and so when you're looking at that very top plug here, so the top, very top left here, there should be a plug. All right, so there's 6 pins in that. So starting at the top right of that plug, so up here is a ground. That's where we're gonna put our ground. Right below that, and we're still on the right-hand side, that's a 12-volt switched. Below that is a 15 amp constant, and then you go to the bottom left corner, and that's a 30 amp constant. So we're gonna just hook to the first two. So the first two on the right, the very top one for ground, and the one right below it for our switched 12 volts. Plugged in up there, and I know I'd rather have the plug. Maybe I'll order one, but I just tucked it back behind the kick panel there, and then I tucked a majority of the wire under the seat, and I ran the plug that goes into the box there. So at this point, we probably need to get this thing off the ground and get the other end hooked up. So really all we need to do is just thread our O2 sensor in, and then we need to route things away from heat to make sure that, you know, we don't have any issues as far as getting into, you know, where that's laying on the exhaust, I guess you could say. So I think I'll back this thing up a little bit. We'll lift it up off the ground, get some jack stands under it, and we'll roll under it, and I'll show you guys kind of what I'm thinking. So you can see at this point we're under the truck, and the placement of this is different than it used to be. So these are Speed Engineering. It's right in the center, which honestly, you know, you're gonna get probably the same reading, I guess, maybe, I don't know guys, but that's where I'm gonna put it, is right there. I don't think there's another one. There's not, that's the closest one. There should probably be another one maybe at the rear, but I think that's the one I'm gonna use. Well, let me show you what I got. All right, so I chose to use this channel to run it up in, and you can see I've got some blue tape on there. I've really got it zip tied up so it's not, you know, I don't have to have this here, just some added protection and to keep it in that. So we went up this channel. Like I said, guys, this isn't permanent. So, you know, if it were gonna be stay in the truck, I would leave it. But I got a zip tie here. I went over the frame, and I've got it zip tied where it's away from the exhaust up top, and then I've got it zip tied to the side of the transmission, and then we have obviously our O2 sensor plugged in. So you need to unscrew obviously the cap, plug the O2 sensor in. I've got it plugged in. At this point, really, all we need to do is hook this into HP tuners, and I have not done that with this version, so I'm gonna have to look into what it's gonna take. But the rest of it, I'm literally just draping under the floor mat inside. So it is pinching just a hair here, but there's less pinch here than there is like down further At least it seems to be anyway. So we're gonna go ahead, get in the truck, see if we can just kind of push some wires under the seat and see if this thing turns on. I just tried it, it didn't come on. So after doing some testing, that top of that plug, the very top right, is a ground, but it's just not strong enough. So what I did was I took this 10 millimeter that you can see right here and ran our black there. So our red is still in the same spot, the second down on that plug on the right. And it seemed to come on, or at least it did a minute ago. We'll try. Should come on with the key. And it looks like we're working. Good deal. But now we have to get it to hook to our HP tuners cable. And so I've got to look up which wire. There's two wires on this. There's a brown and a yellow. And we need to figure out which exactly hooks up to the HP tuners cable, because I have the Pro Suite. You see the little green plug on the side? I've got to figure out which one hooks to that and go from there. Got everything ran in here. The yellow wire that comes off the Ballenger goes to your green plug. And I put on the bottom one the same one I used for my PLX. I guess it's actually the top one if you're looking at it. But the other one, so the brown, actually goes to a ground. So I ran it over here to the same place I grounded. It says to ground it the same place you ground the box. So I did. I ran it over there. So at this point, we can hook this thing up, and I may have to have him send me a custom PIDs, I guess is what they call them. That's the setup for getting whatever's on the box that's showing here to match what's coming out of the analog signal and going into HP Tuner. So that may be my next step. I may have to get in touch with him and see if he can send me that. I know when I tuned my ZR1, they just sent me a file and it loaded all that automatically. So we'll just have to see what is entailed next. I'm going to get in contact with him, but we're ready to start tuning. Well, guys, got to talking to my tuner, and I never even calibrated this sensor. So apparently you have to calibrate these sensors. I never knew that. I thought it was just plug and play, but how you calibrate it, hook it up to power, make sure you're not touching it. I just took it out of the pipe. You don't want to do it in the pipe. So I've got it just dangling right there where you don't want to touch it. You hook it up to power and let it go for about 10 minutes. And once you've let it go, it's getting really hot, so you don't want to touch it. At that point, you grab the there's a little box that has the numbers on it there. We're gonna roll, there's a little calibration setting on there. We're gonna roll it till it says calibrated. And once we do that, then we should be good to let that thing cool off and put back in. But you should be able to move this clockwise or counterclockwise on that box down there. And once you do that where it says calibrated, you should be good, like I said, to let it cool and put it back in. But that's something I did not know, and interesting info. So could be why my readings were off. So we're gonna go ahead, go through this procedure just like the book says, and then hopefully we can get it hooked up to the laptop and go out and drive this thing. So let's talk about the next problem I just found. So been having some issues, you guys know. I've been trying to get it tuned as far as getting the wideband going in here. And I finally got the box to match with some adjustments I found from the tuning school. So the box now matches what HP Tuners is seeing. And that's like a formula. I don't understand it, guys, but if you watch their video on YouTube, I'll try to link it down below here, but it shows you kind of how to get that matching, because I wanted that to match. But the next issue is I took it down the road just to make sure that my wideband is working, and check this out. You see that? That is transmission fluid. I noticed I didn't go real far, just kind of around the block, and I probably should have taken you guys with me, but it was smoking. And so there's fluid that hit the muffler, and luckily we didn't catch anything on fire, but we're gonna have to jack this thing up and see exactly what's going on, obviously, before we continue this. But hey, you know, it's to be expected. Everything else has gone incredibly wrong on this truck, so why not this? I actually think I know what it is. When I bent the line to put into the transmission, so the two little clips that clip into the side of the transmission, I put a pretty hard kink on that, and I'm thinking maybe I messed up where it clips into the trans. That's what I'm thinking anyway, because I don't see any leaks up front here. There's no leaks from Of course, we didn't mess with this, and it doesn't look like there's any leaks where we bolted it onto the factory hard line. So I'm thinking my leak, or wherever it's coming from, is up there beside the transmission. So either way, we're gonna lift this thing up and get under there and see what's going on. So I actually found my leak. It wasn't where I thought it was gonna be. It was actually where I connected these two lines. And I had a really weird kink in that line, and it's only the bottom one. So actually, all our other stuff held up. Where I thought it was leaking, it actually wasn't. So I took this panel out. You can see it laying over there, just the 218s and the 15. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this section off, get that kink out that I had issues with, and I'm just gonna put a new piece of rubber hose in, and we're gonna test it. Hopefully that fixes our issue. Okay guys, so trans line's fixed. It's all filled up with fluid. So now we are hooked up, got the wideband hooked up, got everything going. We just need to connect to the car, and we need to hit record, and we are ready to go. We're gonna do some driving here. Mainly some just in-town driving, so I'm not gonna bore you guys with showing you what goes on, but you can see we're reading. Our mass airflow, our wideband is now installed and reading. So like I said, I'm not gonna show you guys until I get a little more in depth as far as like maybe ripping on it a little bit. But for today, we're just gonna do some smooth driving around town, so it'll be kind of boring. Okay guys, here we are being tow roped. Check that out. So I blew a trans line off again, so we're gonna have to figure something else out. But either way, we're getting tow roped back to the house just because I don't want to wreck the trans. I didn't want to have to drag my trailer in here. I'm not really far away from my house, but that's where we're at. This is kind of the part of the process. You guys can probably understand by now why I can't stand this truck. But I think we're gonna replace all the trans lines and just go from there at this point. So either way, we'll see you guys when we get to the house. So we made it home with the help of the tow rope and the Yukon. And what's broke? Well, me and my son out on the highway, give it the beans, I guess you would say, and it blows a trans line off and makes the biggest smoke show. Look like the car was on fire. And here we are. So I kind of coasted into the closest place I could. I called my wife, said, hey, bring the tow rope. I just didn't want to mess with having her hook up the trailer. And I mean, I could have had her come get me. We could have drove home, got the trailer and whatnot, but I didn't want to drive it really up on the trailer because it had lost a ton of trans fluid. And you can actually see she pulled me up here, and this right here that you see, this line, that's transmission fluid. And so we've got a substantial leak. I know, I gotta believe, and it's right in the same spot the last leak was. So what I've decided to do is, I don't know if it blew the line off. I don't know if it popped the line. I'm gonna have to get under it and see, but I'd like to do it out here just because, man, it makes such a mess with trans fluid. And I know I wanted to let it kind of dry off. This was, we're the next day from this happening. And but either way, I wanted to kind of let it drip off, and but I still think I'm gonna lift it up out here. And what I'm thinking my problem is if it broke the line, then we're gonna have an issue with the rubber, putting that rubber section in there. But if it didn't, I'm thinking what it did is it just blew the line off, and that is because I don't have any flare really, or not much of one on there. And so I'm gonna maybe try to put a bubble flare on there. I've got a bubble flare tool that's supposed to be here tomorrow, but in the meantime, I think I'm gonna jack this thing up out here and see if I can get the lines off. And then I also ordered 2 new replacement lines that snap into the transmission that already have a bubble flare. They're like 90s, but I'll show you guys that. They show be here tomorrow. This will all be in the same video, but either way, I'm gonna pop this thing off the ground, get that out of the way, and hopefully show you guys, you know, during the process. I'm not going to show you the whole me tearing it apart. You've already seen where my issue is, but I'll show you the pieces that I'm going to be putting in. Hopefully that fixes our problem. I want to show you guys what I just did. So I bought a cheap bubble flare tool. You can see sitting right there, and I put a bubble flare on both ends. So I pulled these trans lines out of the truck, and you can see I put a small bubble flare to keep the lines from pushing back. That's what I've done on the the cooler side. Now, for For the transmission, I've got some adapters that actually should be here any minute, hopefully from FedEx. And that should be the other part, and then we're just going to link it with rubber lines like we had before. The problem was I blew off a line. It actually cracked because of the type of flare I put on it, I believe. You see that right there? It cut through. And so that's my bad. I was using a double flaring tool trying to put like a bubble style flare on it, and it just made a jagged edge. And I think that when I put the line on, I think it actually scored that, so that's why I had that issue. But shouldn't have any problems now, or at least I hope. But we're gonna get the rubber line back on here, get it back in the truck. I'll show you guys those fittings when I get them. Like I said, hopefully they're supposed to be here anytime, and then we'll get this thing back going, hopefully. I wanted to show you these pieces that I bought, and I'll link them down in the description. But guys, I actually ended up not using them. And here's why. You see how far down this crimps down? It's really loose in my trans line, and I just didn't like that, where it fit really, really well on the factory lines that I just trimmed down. So what I ended up doing was I just bubble flared. I cut those a little shorter and bubble flared them about, I cut them maybe a little longer than this, but I bubble flared them just like I did the other lines. And so that's what I'm going to go with for now. And here's the other thing. Apparently when you buy one of these packets, they come with 2 to a packet. So I bought 4, thinking I bought 2 sets, thinking I was getting 4 total, and I got 8. So that's not very good description as far as it listing. It comes with 2. I thought it just came with singles. So either way, these do fit really nice in the transmission. So if you guys are looking for something, I didn't feel comfortable with the hose that I had. Now, if I could redo it, I would probably get some different hose, and these would work great. But as far as like, I don't even know what size this is that I bought. It's trans line, but what is it? I don't even know. I think I want to say it's 5/16. Does that sound right? It doesn't even say on here. I don't know what size it is, but I know that like your Hayden coolers, they come with 11/16, and it's way thicker. So if something goes on with this, I'm going to switch to that Hayden line, which is a little more expensive, but I'm hoping, guys, we can take it out and actually drive it now. I've got a little bit more fluid to put in it, and then probably tomorrow night, which it'll all be in this video, but we will take it out and see if we can actually drive it. And nothing happens. Well, guys, we are back in the truck. I've got the trans lines back fixed. I've went actually through a couple of these runs. I was able to get a good run even though the trans line blew off because it was late in my driving. And so kind of how this works, I'm gonna go over it again here, but I use the scanning tool with HP tuners. It reads every parameter essentially on what's going on with the truck while we're driving. And you lean on it a little bit more each time. So he wanted to see some 50 to 75% throttle, and then some 100% throttle, and so on and so forth. Some stuff that he's been asking me about that he can't see, like the way, how does a trans shift? Do you like that? I thought it was a little firm, so I had him change that. But we went back and forth a couple times. So I log this file, I save it, I send it to him. He gives me an update, and that's what I'm getting ready to write in. I think this is the 4th update, maybe the 3rd update that he sent me. It's not going to take him much to dial this in because it's pretty mild setup, just being headers and, a stock LS9 cam. So what we do is we've got our HP tuners cable plugged in there. We've got our wideband plugged in. We've got, obviously, the HP tuners cable routed into the side of the computer here. So we need to turn this on, and we're going to flash the newest version that he sent me in. So we're going to write, and we're just going to write the calibration here, not the entire. And it shouldn't take long. Generally take, well, it says it's got 14 seconds left, so doesn't take long to flash the new update in, especially when you're just writing the calibration only. So basically we're writing only the change. But I think at this point I wanted to take you guys out because we're really close to being finished here as far as the tuning process goes. once the write's complete, then I just close this out and then I shut the key off. I generally let it set for about 10 seconds. I don't really think that that matters, but we'll close this out, close my downloads out, and then we are going to open up HP Tuners. And you have your editor, which is what we were just in, and then you have your scanner. So the main things that you're wanting to make sure of is when we open the scanner, these are all the parameters that it's going to scan. He sent me a list of the things he wanted, so those are all in there. You can go up and add and delete things or move things around. The ones that are kind of grayed out are options that it can scan, but this truck doesn't have that option for. So we can start up and we can go over here to record or start scanning, and that will automatically connect it to the car, and it should start populating down here at the bottom. All our gauges should light up like what you're seeing, and then these boxes will start to fill in as you drive. Like I said, he's got the stuff that he wants to see on there, the main one being obviously the Ballenger. That's telling you what the air fuel ratio is doing, so he looks at that in comparison to what RPM or what speed, and makes adjustments there. But I will tell you guys, the last run that I went on, when I blew that line off, he said everything looked pretty good. So like I said, I don't think we have much more here, but I figured we'll let it warm up a little bit, and then we'll blast down the road and see if we can finish this up, hopefully. I've got it somewhat warmed up. You know, the one thing about these, it's got those pack springs in it. And so one thing that you want to make sure of is if you've got an aftermarket spring in these trucks or car or whatever you're tuning, you really want to get some heat in those, because you will break an aftermarket spring. The factory springs are way more forgiving. I don't know why that is, especially since, you know, supposedly these other ones are stronger, but yeah, don't be ripping on it when the car's cold. So basically I'm going to drive around just for a little bit, make sure that everything's still logging. As you can see, those boxes are starting to fill in, and then we'll try to rip on it. I'm going to try to hold the camera while maybe I do a little pull and let you guys see kind of how it runs now with this cam in it. I will tell you that it seems to pull really well. Of course, from 4,000 up, this cam is more of a top end cam. You do lose some bottom end torque, but this cam feels, even on the low range, feels so much better than the one that I pulled out of it. It's ridiculous. Like it gained some torque back on the downside from the cam it had before. But like I told you guys, that cam was spec'd for like a 2,900 pound race car with a big single turbo on it and to spin to the moon. So, you know, it really didn't fit this truck per se. But yeah, we're gonna let it warm up. We'll get out on a closed road and give it a couple rips. We're gonna get it, we've got it up to temperature now. We're gonna get up over this hill, and then we're gonna kind of roll into it to full throttle. Got some air leaks, that's for sure. It just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. It's kind of crazy how much that cam pulls up top. You guys noticed it maxed out the RPM gauge, but man, it pulls. And it still feels great. You know, that's what's cool about this cam, is like driving around town, man, it feels so nice. No choppy, annoying, yeah, just, I don't know. I might do one more pull, and then I think we'll be done with this log, because I've been driving around for about 10 minutes before I just did that. Now I'm going to try to go from a complete stop and get it up to maybe a first, second gear shift. It just pulls really well. Okay guys, at this point we have loaded the last tune in it, And he said everything looks great, which is awesome, because you guys know, and you've seen even some in this video, but even before that, the headache that this truck has caused me. And but anyway, we're finished up, and at least it is running good. I don't have that choppy, annoying cam that I had before, and I could go ahead and I'm gonna pull out my kind of temporary wideband setup. So I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to go ahead and put the cap back in that we took out in order to put the wideband in place. Go ahead and cut off all my zip ties. But we are finished with this thing. It's exciting because, well, for a couple reasons. I'm going to get to drive it for a couple weeks because, as you guys are going to see very soon, we are going to do some stuff to the actual daily driver, the crew cab. So this is going to be my daily for a little while. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this process of my headaches. At least maybe it will help some of you guys if you do one of these trucks. I'm trying to stand over here because the wind just is going crazy today. It's a nice day, but the wind is going nuts. But yeah, this thing will look kind of cool for a while, and then once we get the gray truck lined out, which you're going to see, like I said, in a video very soon on it, what we're doing with it. Once we get the gray truck lined out, I am going to put this up for sale. I don't know whether my dad is still in for wanting the truck or not. I will let you guys know when I list it, because I think several of you have been interested. I'm thinking 11 grand, guys, is what's going to buy this truck. It does have its share of blemishes. It's got some rock chips here on the hood. You can see, hopefully you guys can see that. The major issues, I'm going to have my PDR guy pull the little door dings out, but the major part is this area right here. The clear is known to get really thin on these, especially these plastic beds, because they're basically plastic. Somebody tried to respray a little bit, it looks like, and it looks like they just did a terrible job. And maybe it's not respray, maybe it's just that bad from the clear breaking up, but that area is kind of rough. The rest of the truck actually is pretty good. No rust in the rockers, not one spot of rust. No rust in the jams or the cab corners on either side. It does have, you can see a scrape here. I don't know how much my PDR guy is going to be able to get out, but just wanted to show you guys. And then the clear is breaking up just a little bit there on the roof of the truck. Pretty common issues with these trucks, but as far as the way it runs, you guys have seen all that has went into it since I've had it, and I'm not really sure what else I can tell you. You guys have seen it all. I've showed you everything, all the good, the bad, and the ugly with this truck. But like I said, guys, hopefully you have enjoyed the progress on this truck, and you may see it again. I don't know if I'll do any more videos on it. For sure, we've got our hands full with other projects, but if you guys did like this, like always, please go down, smash that thumbs up button. Of course, if you are not subscribed, guys, go down there, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell icon. That notifies you every single time we drop a new video, and stay tuned to see what we work on next.